Okay, welcome to another live recording of the Nursing Home Podcast, the podcast that brings you real information in simple and plain terms that we can all understand about what's actually going on in the nursing home space. You guys know, if you've listened to other episodes, that I have a thing for marketing, company for marketing, and specifically marrying senior care to social media marketing, and not just doing it because we realize that it's a checkbox that has to be checked, but because we can actually create actionable and measurable results from the actions that we take on our social media platforms. I know this from my days as an administrator, being active on social media platforms and actually accomplishing the results that everybody, that the corporate folks like to see. But even and now my role as a marketer as well. So I'm really excited to introduce to you a very interesting guest, someone who I've worked with personally on projects and who couldn't be more qualified to discuss this topic. So Stephen Hall, before I even give you a chance to speak, let me talk about you and embarrass you a little bit. Stephen Hall it has a company called Craft Media, as you may see on the screen for those who are watching. And Stephen is a nurse. Stephen has been a clinical liaison. Those not familiar with the term, he's the guy who goes fishing for nursing homes to get residents from the hospital. That's not what we call it, but that's what you do, right? You go to the hospitals and to the community if there are long-term private pay patients, if those things still exist. And his job was to go and bring them in. And Steve, yeah, is very well versed in all the social media platforms and currently has a media company that does this. Specifically, he does this for healthcare facilities and other companies as well. So, Steve, welcome to the Nursing Home Podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me, Shmuel.
Yes, it's definitely a pleasure. So let's start with the lowest hanging fruit here.
All right.
The notion is, and I know this when I talk to prospects, but I know this from my days of operating as well. The notion is that nursing homes and social media couldn't be, more separate, more different, and social media doesn't matter to nursing homes. Lately, operators are getting a little bit more savvy and they're understanding that it's not really going to help anything, but if you're not there, it's like a negative, because why you're not there, and we're concerned maybe other people will put information, images, videos out there which may not present the facility the best of light, but they don't actually see it as a tool. What is your take on specifically for, I know you have experience in other industries as well, but let's keep this specifically to nursing homes. What should their general attitude be towards social media?
I mean, I think their general attitude should treat it, as a platform. I mean, it's definitely not something that should be taken lightly, but I think there's lots of missed opportunity, for nursing homes and post-acute facilities who aren't leveraging social media. So, I mean, really, when people think nursing homes and social media, they make that connection. They go, okay, let's say 85-year-old women and social media don't mix. I mean,
right
on the surface, what you think of, but really who we are marketing to and who we're trying to provide appeal to and show and increase brand awareness, which is really what marketing is to the decision makers, is to the sons, the daughters, the grandkids who are making decisions of where grandma and grandpa, mom and dad are going to be placed, when the time comes. So those are the people you're marketing to. And often in post-acute, it's a little bit more of a long game with that marketing. You're not going to put a post out and all of a sudden your census bumps up. That's just not how it works. It's a continual process that requires strategy and requires consistency. So yeah, it's definite. And like you mentioned, if you don't have control over them, content's going to go out there. Reviews and testimonials are going out there, whether you like it or not. And you can either have a voice in, the conversation and respond and be open and have transparency, which is super important. All nursing homes, no matter how great your CMS score is, some of them get bad family reviews and they leave them on, caring.com and Yelp and Google and all this. You have the opportunity on all those platforms to respond. All those platforms are forms of social media. I mean, social media really is the digital world. So you need to be on there responding. And just because you get a bad review doesn't mean, it's all over for your brand on digital. the opportunity for you to really represent yourself well is to have a nice professional response and really reach out, give out your, the administrator's phone number to give them a call. People see that, and people are smart. You got to give consumers credit. They see right through. They know that sometimes there's bad reviews. I mean, you go on Yelp for a restaurant, there's going to be tons of bad reviews. People know that people don't generally take the time to leave good reviews, which is a problem. And there's some steps and some actions I've taken with clients to really try to push positive reviews, from incentivize a little bit. But yeah, the long and the short is just, it's no different than any other industry that post-acute providers, specifically nursing homes, especially right now where it's very competitive. With COVID, a lot of families want to bring their loved ones home. They're not, they're nervous about sending them to a facility. Very important to be transparent and explain, what you're doing precaution-wise on the platforms that these decision makers are on, Facebook, Instagram, and we'll get to it. Even platforms like TikTok and YouTube, those definitely should be leveraged pretty aggressive, in my opinion.
Yeah, so we'll get to the specifics in a moment, but just a couple of points here. So number one is you're right. The decision makers many times are not the residents, like you mentioned. Additionally, as time progresses, the 65-year-olds today that are very comfortable on Facebook, in 10 years from now, will be 75-year-olds that are very comfortable on Facebook, and 85. So more and more older adults are getting more comfortable in some of the platforms.
Oh yeah.
But additionally to that, it's not just family members. Decision makers include case managers in the hospital, includes placement workers, social workers in the community as well. And they have a huge impact into where they're sending family members. Another point that you brought up, there's a lot to unpack in just your first comment, but one thing that you brought up also is, regardless of whether you take this seriously, stuff is being said about you online, whether you like it or not. This applies to every business, but specifically nursing homes, this is, a life-changing decision for residents or family members. And this is that they're not buying a pie of pizza, right? This is their life. This is for real. For many of them, it may be the last major decision that they make, about this family member, depending on the situation. So they're going to take this very seriously. But you said also, people are creating content. People don't realize that, what's branding. People say, like, I don't care about branding. All I care about is census. Get me residents. Get me them now. And I don't care about this silly Facebook stuff and pictures. What does that do? Your brand equals your reputation, online and offline. That is what your brand is. If you don't tell people who you are, you don't tell people what your brand is, then your brand will be created by other people, right? But if you take the time to create it yourself, then you can dramatically influence people into understanding exactly what your brand is and what your brand isn't. I'm just trying to go through now all the points. One more point, though, and then we'll get to something else in a second. Reviews. There's nothing worse as a business owner than to get into it, so to speak, with someone left a bad review in whatever platform it is that left a review. So you have a restaurant and someone left it was a hair on my food and I found a bug in the chicken and all sorts of crazy stuff. You say, no, there wasn't, and you weren't even here on that day, and it was your own hair, and you drop bugs in every time just so you could post these reviews. The picture is photoshopped. There's nothing dumber than you can do, because the purpose in responding to a review online is not to the person who left the review, it's to the world that's watching how you respond to reviews.
Yeah, you nailed
ownership, right? You agree with that?
I agree with that. Yeah, you nailed it. That was a very concise way. I might just steal what you just said when I explain it to some clients I work with, because there's people who feel like they got to just go off and I need to defend. I've worked really hard to build this. You got to, which I understand. I appreciate their passion generally, but yeah, I guess that's why they bring people on who are sort of that third eye to sort of guide them. But yeah, you're right.
Right. They're not emotionally involved. If you're an administrator, I've seen this, right? You're working in this building, spending hours and hours in this building. You're doing everything you can to turn things around. And in that very thing that you've grown tremendously, someone says, oh, this and this happened. Either it's not true or it hurts because it is true and it shouldn't be true. Whatever it is, you get all emotional. You got to leave it cold, professional, concise. We're sorry that that this was your experience. You're not agreeing that that's what happened, but this is their experience. And we'd love to discuss this further. Here's the next, action step, whatever it is. Call us, email us, come throw a rock through our window, or whatever it is. So, I mean, that's something that is critical. The point is, I think the biggest point that I want people to take out of this conversation is you can't just say, stick your head in the sand and say, for 50 years, we've been operating facilities successfully. We didn't need Facebook. We didn't need Instagram. Didn't need Google. So we don't need this now. So first of all, it's too bad. The world has moved on. And now you do need it. A, because if you don't address it and take it seriously, the world will, and it won't be pretty. B, it's an opportunity. Now, how do you explain to people? I have my own 2 cents here, but I want to hear your thought. Is like, what's the purpose besides for not allowing others to create your branding for you? But if someone wants to know, like, what's the purpose in creating content online for a nursing home specifically? What are the positive goals that they can expect to see? What type of time period? How do you explain that to them?
Well, I mean, for years, and still, I'm sure there are, maybe not so much now, but for a very common role in nursing homes, I worked as I started as a bedside nurse at a SNF, nurse manager for quite a few years on a subacute unit, and then moved on into the liaison marketing sort of world. So, I've worked for lots of different companies who have different operating systems. A very common role in all those places was the community liaison. A lot of buildings had a community liaison, which was a really, generally speaking, very broad terms, a really sweet person who was well connected in the senior centers, well connected in the community, would go to apartment buildings, real places where there would be potential business, where potential business may come from. Decision makers may live there, future residents may live there, and just bring lunch. And really the goal of them was to be present in the community. They wanted, X, Y, and Z facility to be known as a giving, caring facility so that they could get business. And they would also be problem solvers. If someone would come to them and say, my mom is having, trouble, doing her ADLs and all these things, and they'd give advice and maybe sometimes refer them to a home care agency, just be a partner in the community. Social media is very much developing community. So on a local level, there's differences. So if you're a large national brand, just think of that large national nursing home brand that we all know a few of them off the top of our head. Their marketing strategy is going to be way different than one of their buildings that's, I'm in Massachusetts, that's here in Massachusetts. Their marketing it can be really community focused. I mean, so you're basically you can be a community liaison type role, but you have so much more reach than one person who's a community liaison. You can be involved in all your town Facebook groups and representing XYZ nursing facility or rehab center, commenting as that facility, just being involved. And it doesn't always have to be healthcare stuff. It can be, someone writes I live in Plymouth, Mass. In Plymouth, Mass. What's the best pizza here in town? And you go on there as X, Y, and Z nursing home, and your marketing team, I think this, and this one's great. Tagging those facilities and just getting involved, being in on the comments as that facility is huge. Like, that is just as important as you sharing the great outcomes that you had from your survey, which that's usually the big, if someone has a great survey, I mean, buildings will put banners on the side of the buildings that they had 5 stars,
Mm-hmm.
But you have other opportunity that I feel, in my experience, is equally as important as that 5-star banner every single day on social media. And you're going to get you're going to reap incredible, rewards for putting in that effort. And, to get to your question about time period, that's really difficult to say, because right now Facebook and Instagram are super established platforms. You can get on there right now and start seeing, results pretty quickly because everybody's on them. I mean, the age, it's from teenagers to, my mother, who's almost 70, is very active on Facebook. So there's a huge
Mm-hmm.
audience there, which is fantastic. You can get on there and start creating content and leveraging targeted ads, and you're going to get results and awareness pretty quickly. As opposed to something where you need to be a new adopter, which is fantastic. This is where, Instagram, 5+ years ago was all teenagers, all young kids. And now it's very common. I mean, I'm 41. I'm very active on there personally and for my clients. And a lot of my friends of similar age are very active on there. It's a great platform. You can share,
Mm-hmm.
Simply share a great picture and tell get the little authentic pieces in your stories. And it's really fun. So
So hold on. Before we get too far into the specifics of the platforms, I would just want to hone in onto what you just gave an outstanding overview into why we do social media to begin with,
mhm,
and also you dropped a really a gem as to what is the purpose in marketing to begin with. So if you let's talk about LinkedIn marketing for a second. If you have a LinkedIn account, you probably get like 6 to 10 messages every day of someone, great to connect. I have a bridge to sell you. I have a great used car to sell you. Use my services to do this. That is like a horrific way of developing a relationship with another human being.
agreed.
It's clearly you clearly don't care about the other person. You just want their money, and you're willing to give your services or product to them, maybe because that's the way you get someone else's money without going to jail.
Mhm.
That's not good human interaction. It's not normal social behavior. So, as a liaison, I've seen this so many times. What do? We're gonna drop off pens and donuts and ask for referrals. It's like transactional
Yeah.
relationship. It doesn't work to create a relationship that way. So there's two separate points that you brought up that are equally important, and each one is really worthy of this conversation. I'm really happy you brought both of them up. So thank you. Number one is, what is the purpose for a nursing home liaison? What are you doing? You're not just going out there. Like if you're an owner or operator, you have a regional on top of you. A lot of times they're going to say, "Oh, let's go, Steve. How many leads do you have today? How many referrals? When are they converting? Did they convert today? Not convert today?" And I get it. They have a responsibility to whoever they respond to, or if it's the owners themselves, they want to make sure that the business is growing. And what action item do they have other than to speak to the liaison, because they're the boots on the ground, so to speak.
Mhm.
For the liaison, though, if you're building a long-term game, maybe some activity is important on that day's referrals and trying to move the conversation forward. But on a bigger I've had more success with my liaisons who saw the bigger picture and spent, especially now when hospitals don't welcome you in, they've done fantastic work in the community by giving value. Yeah, everyone knows I work for ABC Healthcare and Rehab Company down the road. Everyone knows that, and I'm very open about it. It's on my business cards. I tell everybody that. But I don't say send your loved ones here. I don't hard sell. Every
Mhm.
time I see someone with gray hair, say, by the way, if you break your hip and we can help you with that, there's a great place down the block. You go for rehab afterwards. We don't do that. Like you said, be where they are. Be a genuine part of their community. Provide value, whether or not it directly impacts or relates to what you're selling. And then it's natural that when they would need a nursing home, how many times I'll just switch as an operator? Are we frustrated when a resident or a family member won't go through with a treatment plan because their uncle, who one time thought about going to nursing school or was a CNA for a week, thinks that the treatment plan that our medical director, in consultation with the physicians in the hospital, have decided is a good plan of treatment. Doesn't matter. They're going to ask their local would be one day maybe CNA.
Yep.
That's crazy, but that's what they do. If you're that trusted person in their community that knows stuff about nursing homes, they're going to come to you when they have anything senior related and not. So that's one point, is like that's the role of the liaison. That's the role really as a general marketing concept, but that's how it applies to nursing homes. But then if you understand that, the misconception that I find is that people think social media is like almost magic. It's like a lottery. You click like and you put in comments about random stuff and you post pictures of people and you put videos out, and then money starts coming in somehow for yourself or your business. They don't realize that it's the exact same thing. It's the same relationship building. It's not magic. People will open up their wallets when they know you and they trust you, and they even if they don't know enough about your offer, they know that you're not going to lead them down the wrong path. So if you're saying you represent ABC company, ABC nursing home, they're going to want to send there. They're going to want to at least learn about it because you are the guy. You're the one who knows stuff, right? So when you're doing liaison properly, you go into the senior centers, you're going into all the places that you're supposed to go into, and you're there every day. You show up and you're part of their social circle. So now on social, and specifically during COVID, when a lot of those in-person events are either toned down or don't exist at all, you can still go into the senior center, go into their Facebook group and provide value there. You can go to the local library, you can go to the local restaurants and all the establishments in town. And when they're talking about COVID, and you can even educate them based on your expertise and your knowledge because of the nursing home. They want to know about vaccinations. It's endless what you can do and how you can maximize it. So you're really given a fantastic overview of this. Is something I have to do sometimes to clients, right? Anything you want to add to that before we jump into specific platforms?
No, I think we did good.
Okay, amazing. I mean, it's not me, it's you. I'm just trying to share it out a little bit. So now we know, I want to jump straight to the chase here. So we mentioned Facebook, Instagram a little bit, Google My Business and reviews. All those things are amazing. We can spend a whole nother episode on all those things. But I don't want to focus right now for the rest of this conversation, if we can, on TikTok. And I'll give you my 2 cents here. So hopefully everyone who's listening to this heard of TikTok. If you didn't, TikTok is, it's really a concept which other social media platforms have adopted already, but it's really very, very short, engaging, dopamine feeding videos that within, I don't know if it's 15 seconds or whatever, it's very short videos, and that you get that high that you want to get from watching a video. It's something very impactful. A lot of, girls or younger women dancing, doing different things that you would, how a lot of these other platforms have started. And obviously it's exploding, and the engagement, the organic reach there is crazy. The very last place that you would expect for people to use it is nursing homes. And I'm not yet convinced that that's the right place. I know we spoke about this a few weeks back about what you're about for another non-nursing home client, but what would you say what do you think about the platform first? And then after that, let's talk about how to apply it to nursing homes.
Yeah, it's definitely, when you hear nursing homes and TikTok, you almost just, especially if you work in nursing homes or from, you just almost laugh instinctively. You're like, right. What? That doesn't make any sense. But I mean, it's really more of like a way of thinking and a philosophy. It's sort of, so it's being an early adopter, it has huge advantages on any platform. So, I mean, I mentioned Instagram before because Instagram was what TikTok is now in terms of right now. It's a lot of, actually, it's really changing. It's been changing for months now, especially COVID really ramped up the usage and the span of the demographics that are on TikTok, just because people were stuck in their houses and bored, and, so they've really grown. But Instagram was very young, typically female, teenagers, early 20s on there, just posting selfies and pictures like that, things that made them and their sort of friend group smile, has grown into, obviously, we've already talked about, very standardized, a platform you have to be present on. I mean, you're leaving money on the table if you're not present on Instagram and Facebook. So really now TikTok is in that early adoption phase. And right now you may be thinking, like, why would a nursing home want to be on there? I can think of a lot of reasons. And some of those are, just being an early adopter and getting out there is going to help. Your organic reach is going to be huge. So yeah, a lot of people who are going to see your videos at first might be, I don't know, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old females. But that doesn't really matter. That's not really, it's a learning experience. So all these platforms develop, like you said, Instagram has already stolen TikTok's concept essentially, and they call it Reels. So Reel, they're fortunate to be this gigantic company. Like, hey, we like that feature, we're going to add it. So they added Reels, and it's taken off. So to learn how to use the platform, what works, what doesn't work, what's engaging, what really, like you said, what gets the your dopamine just shooting up real quick, or when you're watching, like, this is really exciting. That's going to apply to all other platforms. Like, what you've learned on TikTok is going to work on Instagram Reels, and it's going to work on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is obviously fantastic platform for organic reach still, and there's lots of talk of their video features being expanded upon. They've already instituted stories on LinkedIn Mobile, which aren't getting a ton of use. And I try to use them just for myself, just to see who's, there's not a lot of people viewing them. It really depends on your phones, the software updates and things like that, but they're rolling it out, and eventually it's going to be part of the platform. What you learn on TikTok is really you're going to have the skill set right away to bring it to LinkedIn, an established platform, and hit the ground running. And really the other sort of way to look at it is, it's a long game. It's a long game with all marketing. That 18-year-old girl who's on TikTok right now, in 10 years, very well could be a nurse in a hospital, a nurse in a rehab center. She could be a decision maker for her grandparents. She could be involved in family decisions of what's going to happen with grandma and grandpa. And if this large, it's going to start, it always starts large with larger brands. But if this, if this nationally known or ownership group of these rehab facilities is active on there and putting out really great success story videos on TikTok. I mean, there are tons of channels on TikTok. I follow a lot of them because I have a sweet spot for the elderly, just with my background in nursing, of elderly people dancing and to funny music, and they have their own channels, and they get hundreds of thousands of interactions on every single video. They have a couple million followers. I mean, there are lots of these channels focused around really cute elderly people. So that's like, you can look at those channels and really glean a lot from it and say, okay, this is what we could do. We have a lot of great things that happen within our facility, in our activities department, that are really cute, and really, we want to share this with the world. So that's what you do. You could share what's happening in your activities department, and set it to some really cool current music. When you're on TikTok, you pick the songs, and they can be, you got to be careful because some of the songs can be a little vulgar, but depending on what your audience is. But right now, that's how they get pushed out. I mean, like you alluded to, I have a bunch of my clients on TikTok now, and the growth is pretty unbelievable. And none of my clients are teenage girls. So it's, they're big companies who down the road, that young market is going to be our market, and it's a long game. And right now, with our organic audience, the audience is exploding organically. We just want to be there. I mean, the platform could fall flat on its feet in 2 years, but at least we were there and positioned well for if it does really explode, and we want and more users come into it. And we're already seeing, I mean, there's a trend for, there's hashtags for 40-year-old moms and 30-year-old moms, and all over TikTok. Those are 100% influencers / decision makers within the senior care space. So they're on there. They're already on there. So you should.
Okay. So if you don't mind, I just want to cut in for a second here. So I understand that if we have a good facility and we have funny moments that happen, and we have things that we could and should be sharing, that we could be sharing out, there's definitely room for us to be successful on such a platform. The question, and you're saying like the long game, like Coke is advertising on children's, TV channels because they know that when they go to the store now, they'll choose, but like they're just kind of pushing it in their brain, let's do this, Coke or whatever. All these other big brands that do that, and there's a level of success. Now, nursing homes are not the same size company as, as Coke and these other big brands to afford to do things like that. But that's something to be said. That's a hard sell, though. If I'm a nursing home owner operating, to tell me they should do it for one day, maybe not. But my question is, let's assume it's going to grow, and it's going to be, you have a very deep organic reach. In order for me to results for a nursing home, right, are either census or employees. Like those are the two biggest things that they're looking for, right? As a liaison, it's census. From a facility standpoint, it's getting staff to want to work there, make it look like a fun, enjoyable place to work. There are obviously lots of other things, regulatory compliance. Surveyors probably check out their social channels. They for sure do, because it's part of their process now to make sure you don't have anyone there that's not allowed to be there, and then sign a consent form and all that. How much of TikTok's reach, how deep can you get locally with TikTok as you can with Facebook? Like you mentioned earlier, you get into all the local groups. So your target market, and another point you mentioned earlier also is that if you're a big global company and you want in general to have a general impression of XYZ healthcare, let's say, so yeah, then it makes sense. You take videos from all your various facilities and you put it up there, and you have a channel. So now anyone who lives anywhere in the United States of America will know that ABC Healthcare is a great company. I saw a 87-year-old dancing together with her husband of whatever 70 years, and it was so cute. And I should send my mom to my local ABC Healthcare center. I get that, but from either a standalone facility or a smaller company, or even just for local reach, how targeted can you get with this?
Yeah, it's still in its infancy, in terms of, we'll talk organically, it's still in its infancy, but you're seeing it, I'm seeing it on TikTok, I'm noticing, and it's really happening the same way that other platforms happen. They're really, unfortunately, we all have very little privacy nowadays in terms of our devices and what we watch on. And I'm noticing that in my suggested feed on TikTok, for example, I'm seeing people that I'm, 3 degrees separated from some of my contacts in my phone, you know what I mean, that are on TikTok sharing, it's like someone who's sharing like they're working out at the CrossFit up the street and they're sharing their, the video of them hitting a PR with their lift or whatever, just very like, it's just, they have a couple followers that just got on there, but it's showing up in my feed because they're local to me and because they're connected, via my content.
Got it. What about doing it more intentionally? Is there a way to target local people or
right now,
groups?
Hashtags is really kind of the big way to talk. You can follow hashtags, and that's also part of the sort of the algorithm that's used. So hashtagging, I work with I work with some brands who are on specific places here in Massachusetts. So they're on Nantucket, which is, everyone knows Nantucket. Use hashtag Nantucket, and if you follow hashtag Nantucket, it's all brands and people who are present on there. So if you want to be active in that community or be seen by people who want to be involved in Nantucket happenings, that's what you would want to do. You'd want to make sure you include that hashtag in all your posts and your content, and so you can start trending within that hashtag. I've definitely noticed, like with all, and I've said this in little videos I've put out on LinkedIn, consistency is reward. It's not only really you benefit from it, it's rewarded, especially on platforms like TikTok and even still LinkedIn, because if you're posting every single day, I notice if I'm doing little videos for my clients, fortunate that I can create a ton of I can go and if my clients shoot a ton of video and then chop it up into bits for TikTok. When I'm on the stretch of every day, you can see the numbers going up. If I take a day off or 2 days off and then then I'm playing catch up again with it's definitely, there's some momentum that seems to be involved there. And obviously the way, this is how you get, tons of followers on TikTok. You really learn from experience, just like I learned on all these other platforms, what works. Definitely 100% just being consistent. And yeah, I do think that it's a long game. You're not immediately going to see local results, but if you wait until there's people getting local results, then you're going to be trying to play catch up. So you just go a little bit. I mean, there's no direct ROI. I can't tell an administrator, you pay me this to be present on TikTok, I'm going to create the content, you're going to get,
your census is going to go up.
Yeah, average of 2 more admits per month, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's just not going to happen. I can't promise that. But we've seen enough. We're in this great sort of phase where we can see the very mature Facebook. Facebook is just, I mean, it's such a part of our, our culture and in our fabric of the society. Unfortunately, that, I mean, they're banning presidents from it. I mean, it's like, it's such it's so influential that it's a part of that we can see that mature, what it can become. And then we have TikTok on the other hand, which is really just a baby, just a little like embryo of something right now. So you need to hedge your bets a little bit and get involved and take chances. And it could become the next Facebook. And if you're in there early, you're going to reap the rewards. Then you certainly will see, results for your brand and for your building and your census. You can, like you said, back to the beginning of the conversation, if you're not putting it out there, someone's putting it out there for you. You can share these great moments. TikTok doesn't have to be dance videos. That's I put out dance videos for my clients. It's everything. It's food. It's real estate. It's all these different things that are very interesting and sexy. And you set it to some cool music and people are interested. I mean, that juxtaposition of really current pop music with sweet elderly lady, I think it's great. I think it's awesome. I think there's
I mean, there is one thing that, people, I think it's a real misconception and for all social media platforms, maybe specifically TikTok, is that people want to get, thousands of views and followers. And that doesn't always translate into business, especially if you don't know yourself how you want it to translate into business.
Yeah.
Now, it's true. If you have attention, eyeballs equals money. It's true. And opportunities can come. But if you already have a very specific business, so nursing homes are not pivoting and going to start selling, I don't know what, they're not going to turn into another business. They are what they are. They've always been what they are. We know what they are. There's some, innovation that's possible, but for the most part, it's pretty static what the business is. So if you get 100,000 followers on TikTok, that's cool. But it's like you said, it won't increase the census today or tomorrow, maybe eventually and slowly. My question is, if I was doing this for a nursing home client, we were maybe, and we were trying to set up a good TikTok platforms. So besides for the local hashtags, wouldn't it make sense to maybe use the local hashtag to find other local accounts and really mimic what you would do in person as a liaison, or what you would do what you would do on social, let's say on Facebook, and find others? How likely is someone to engage back in your content if you engage in their content?
Yeah, it's pretty likely. It's the same thing. So what I call when I'm speaking with my clients and I'm just talking about what we're doing, how things are, or I'm pitching them, and we just met. It's not. I call it community management. A lot of people, that's sort of common in the industry of marketing. So it's online community management is that. So that's you push out content. That's one piece of the puzzle. Interaction is another.
I love that term.
I already mentioned Nantucket, so I'm just going to go off that because when I say the word Nantucket, you probably have there's images that pop in your head of what Nantucket could be: big houses, wealthy, luxury, all that kind of stuff. So when I'm on there interacting as the brand, I work with what things that are associated with that. We go on, and I have some people that help. Some of our employees and help here is they go on, they look for. What are some common, a lot of it, like what are some things that are parallel to that lifestyle: sailing, golf, luxury watches. I mean, you can just go on, the financial sector, all of those aspects, all those verticals have people on TikTok who are involved in that. So definitely sailing, yachts, all that kind of stuff, very active on TikTok. So you can go on there and we'll interact as the brand and comment and just engage and try to be a part of that conversation, because if we're out there and we get a little bit more, that early organic reach, the plan is that results in brand awareness over time. And when it's time to make a decision, then we want to be, I want my client to be the person they think of over the competitor that is not being aggressive on TikTok. So
right.
And it's not like, there is an investment for sure. It does cost money to be present on TikTok. And depending on what type of business you are, you may not need to hire someone like me or you to get you started. I mean, if you're just a one-off thing, like just give it a shot. I mean, there's nothing bad. I mean, short of sharing something that you really shouldn't be, I mean, there's no downside. Just download the app and start messing with it, and if you're a convenience store owner, just get on there and start, and it may just come to you naturally and figure out, but you're never going to know until you try. It's free to try. So, I think everyone's
amazing. So listen, I see the time has gone by a little too quickly here. I did not realize how long this has been. And we need to wrap up. But before we let you go, any final thoughts about the industry, or how nursing homes or seniors should be looking at senior care and social media, and then also where's a good place for people to follow up with you if they want to discuss craft media?
Well, yeah. So I think I thought of this when we were talking, and this is sort of my final point.
Sure.
That you can. So I worked as a clinical liaison for a pretty large. At the time wasn't a skilled. It was an inpatient rehab facility. Was my last position. So, and I felt so passionately about leveraging digital and social channels at that time, because being a liaison, I was out trying to get in hospitals. As you know, the hospitals really try to keep you, they want everything to be electronic. I was fortunate to have great relationships, but I was so driven, and so I could see the results, because I was already, my side hustle at the time, I was working with brands on the side, helping with their social media. I just, all of a sudden start doing this overnight. I had years of experience, and I knew we were leaving money on the table. I knew that the hospital I worked for could get more business if they were aggressive or even present on social media. They really weren't present at all. So I left that job and went out on my own and took that side hustle, and that became craft media. And now I know that I was right in what I did, because we've worked with brands across all different sectors, including healthcare, and seen immediate results. So I think I just want if there's an administrator, operator, ownership watching this, I think, just give it a little bit more thought if you sort of foo-fooed it away before, because at this point there's case studies, there's results, and there's there's proof that it works. So
right.
As far as
I mean, to your point, you can get started with a cell phone.
Yeah, you don't
need to. It's not complicated. You don't need to start video editing. You don't need anything complex. It's very very simple.
That's 100% true.
and you don't have to be worried about what your account is going to look like. You can fix it up as you're going along.
Yep.
And if people want to learn more about you and your company, where's the best place to send them?
Best place would be just go to craftmediainc.com.
Craftmediainc.com. Awesome. We'll definitely put a link to that in the show notes. Thank you, Stephen, for coming on the Nursing Home Podcast and sharing so generously of your experience and your knowledge. It's really been a pleasure.